Yeah.
If you haven't done work to clean up your dynamic with your family of origin, particularly your parents, particularly your same-sex parent, you need to be doing that in your 40s.
Yeah.
So in other words, guys need to be working out any issues and dynamics they had with their dad.
Yeah.
Moms and women need to be talking about their issues they've got with their moms.
Yep.
I mean, that needs to be kind of worked through, because that also plays into some of that dynamic, because now you're a parent, or now you're doing some of those things.
That's
and
right.
that identity is on you, and defining who you are is partly in determining who they were and
Yeah.
how you want to be in relation to that.
Yeah.
And reaching some kind of peace around that.
Yeah. And it's such a challenging thing, but I would also kind of frame it as such an opportunity, right? Your parents at that point, if they're still around, which, some people don't have them around still, but if they're still around, you've still got time, right? You've got the time to kind of repair or work out whatever you need to work out, and hopefully move to a new place even, right? With them and with that relationship, and have some great memories and times and all of that. So, yeah.
And help you then think about how you want to be a parent,
Yeah.
and what's the culture of the house you're trying to establish.
That's right.
And then going back to kind of meaning, I think it's also a time to be sitting back and saying, well, gosh, is this really all there is? I mean, is this where do I want to go? Like, is this?
I think it's like you've kind of like taken on all the societal definitions of meaning and checked all those boxes.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of bottom of the trough is maybe like I get to figure out what meaning is, right? Maybe I get to define that for myself. And I think that's really a big part of the work of your 40s is, what is meaning to me? What does a meaningful life look like to me? That's the 40s for sure. And again, back to relationships, and you've probably seen all the studies and stuff, but I mean, the quality of your relationships is the key indicator for like every important thing in life, right? And so if you've neglected those things up through your 20s and 30s and sacrificed relationships for career or whatever, reinvest, right?
Yeah.
So.
And I think I can speak for myself. I think that when the kids start to get older, then part of what you end up with is you don't have to do as much. You have a little more time.
Yep.
But then that also allows you time to reflect and think about what you need and don't need, and and so some of those things can bubble up.
Yeah.
If maybe you were so busy before, you didn't have time to think about that stuff.
That's right.
So that again, if what you push down will come up.
Yeah, that's right.
And so sometimes it can surprise us, because all of a sudden it's like, gosh, yeah, I've got this thing I didn't think about.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a season to kind of reevaluate and think about what do you want next, because if you're mid 40s, you're halfway through your career.
That's right.
And so you're on a path.
I think if you are kind of needing to go down that path of counseling, it's a great time for some of the reasons you mentioned. You've got the time, you've probably got a little kind of discretionary income to funnel into the counseling category.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You've got the ability to do it. And it's the time that people are really serious about it. Like, they're really reflective and they're in that meaning phase. So it's a great time for that.
Yeah. So I want to move us into our 50s. We're getting close here to the end of the show. Last thing on the 40s. And you should stretch a lot too in your 40s. Your body needs a lot more stretching. Mine sure
less
does.
Contact sports.
It does. Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. No, actually, everything becomes a contact sport in your 40s. It's like that step on the stair becomes a contact sport.
That is always a rude awakening when you go to the doctor and you're like, okay, my foot's doing this. And the answer was like, yeah, you're 40.
Yeah.
Like, that's the, like that. No, fix it.
I've got plantar fasciitis. I'm finally comfortable enough to label it in my right foot. You know why? Because I spent a day digging in the yard in May. May. And so now
putting
my
you on
foot
injured
is
reserve
like,
from the
because I
yard
dug
digging.
holes. Ridiculous. Okay, so then we move into our 50s. And we'll leave this as kind of our last season for our conversation today. What are some things, hallmarks you think about your 50s?
Yeah, it is really kind of like integrating all of that. So, I mean, I'll kind of reiterate briefly, but again, I work with guys who are coming in their 50s who this is the first time they're coming in for counseling to address these issues and all that. Great. Like, it's never too late. I've worked with guys up to 70s and 80s even. So that's a big part of it. But it's really the time in your life that you're kind of integrating. Like, you've for the most part, probably kind of raised your kids, and maybe they're beginning to spread their wings, and you're integrating all of that meaning piece. You're on the up slope, on the up curve of that happiness curve, hopefully. Part of the challenge, I haven't made it kind of to this part of my life yet, but that kind of, aging parents and the sandwich generation stuff. I think there's a lot of challenges related to that.
I'm 45, so I'm not there yet either. But what I do know happens in that season is we end up with empty nest, which is both a happy and sad event. So there's some grieving that goes on, but also this freedom and space to travel. We're at our highest earning potential for most people is going to be in their 50s. That's when you're really going to start to be banking some cash, and you've got extra money to travel and see your kids. You've also got aging parents, as you mentioned. So you're going to have that responsibility typically to take on while you're still trying to launch your kids, your final ones, out of the house. And the other thing that I'd also add in all this is that I just finished the book Range, and there was a chapter in that book, great book by the way, I highly recommend it. And they talked about there was when they look at seasons of life and when people kind of excel, you often assume that geniuses are always happening kind of early on in their career. It can happen later in your career too. So just because you're into your 40s and 50s, there are many kind of world-changing geniuses that didn't get their first big thing until their 40s and 50s.
I actually read something recently about like the average age of new entrepreneurs, like the average age is like 45. Like that's the age of like,
I saw that too.
Average age is like, okay.
Because we
like,
often...
The myth is like the 21-year-old like hoodie genius.
Because you think you pass these seasons and then there's no turning back.
That's right.
And in many cases, there's always time. And that's kind of a theme I'm hearing in this, is that, it's never too late. But we also want to make sure we're setting ourselves up for success. So kind of what goes down will come up.